So, good morning everybody. My name is Richard Duffy. I'm the product evangelist here at Acumatica, and on behalf of Acumatica and our partners all around the world, I'd like to welcome you to today's session. What I'm going to be doing in today's session is giving you a relatively generic introduction to Acumatica and our cloud ERP solution, so that by the end of today's session you have a bit of an understanding of Acumatica, the company, Acumatica, the product more importantly, and really what the problem is that Acumatica has been built to address, and how we address that particular challenge that many small and mid-sized enterprises face today. I'm also going to explain to you specifically the 3 areas where Acumatica can help your organization unlock your business potential, because that's really fundamentally what we're focused on, is helping you do that. So with that in mind, let me just take you through and explain to you what our agenda is today. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about the vision that we have for your future, and why and how we've built Acumatica around that vision for your future. Then I'm going to take you through a little bit of a framework that we've built that I've heard from people helps them understand exactly where Acumatica fits into the market, and also gives a good framework for deciding, well, what kind of solutions should people be looking at, and what are the kinds of things that they should be looking at when they're reviewing their business management and business process automation solutions. We're going to talk a little bit about why ERP in the cloud makes sense. We're going to then talk a little bit about how we're delivering today, and I'm going to give you a demonstration, an introductory demonstration of Acumatica. I'm going to introduce you to a couple of our customers who are utilizing the solution, so you get an understanding of where people are using Acumatica today. And then after all that's done, hopefully you're at that stage thinking, well, this all sounds great. Well, tell me a little bit more about Acumatica, the company, and is this the kind of organization that I want to be entrusting the future of my business to? And then how do we take the next steps? So hopefully that agenda aligns with your expectations for our time together today. Again, not going to focus on any specific industry, not going to focus on, wholesale and distribution or professional services or retail or anything like that. We do have separate sessions focusing specifically on different industries. Today is really a generic overview. Now, I know that some of you who are on today's presentation are looking at Acumatica as a potential solution for your business. Others are just trying to find out some general information about Acumatica. And I know that we may also have a number of people on today's session who are also contemplating becoming a partner for Acumatica. So with that in mind, I would like to just remind you that today's session is relatively generic. All right, so hopefully that sets the expectation and everybody's comfortable with what we're going to cover. So then let's talk about our vision, and it's not necessarily just our vision. Our vision is based on the information that we've gained from working with literally thousands of customers around the world in terms of what they're looking for their enterprise resource planning solutions. So one of the things that we hear is that what people are looking for is they're looking for solutions which enable them to take control of their business. That's fundamentally the promise of enterprise resource planning. It's really around being in a situation where you have visibility into the organization, and then being able to leverage that visibility to make the right strategic decisions, to gain control over what's happening in the business. But also, importantly, it's also about unlocking and utilizing your potential. So now, to unlock and utilize your potential, what do you really need to do? You really need to be able to take that information that is being stored, being captured, being managed by your enterprise resource planning solution, and turn that insight, if you like, into action. And then one of the other things that we hear is that people are looking for solutions which provide a solid foundation for their growth. So they're looking for applications which provide a platform on which they can grow. And that growth comes around things like being able to, be innovative about how they go to market, to being able to think strategically around the business opportunities that exist for them, to be able to plan effectively, to be able to make sure that they're managing their finances correctly, take advantage of the right technology at the right time when it delivers business value, and to make sure that the solution is flexible. So those are the things that we've heard from people that they're looking for. And that's one of the things that we've really focused on as we've gone out and we've built the Acumatica solution, which interestingly has been in development, or we started the development of Acumatica back in 2007. And Acumatica started off as a business automation solution. And we built this entire business automation platform. And then the founders of the company, who are all ERP veterans, I'm sure they won't mind me referring to them as ERP veterans, they've come from many, many years of enterprise resource planning experience, said, well, you know what, this business automation platform that we built is a great platform on which to build an enterprise resource planning solution, and that's what they did. And that building of that planning solution, that enterprise resource planning solution, factored all these key areas in. So hopefully as we go through, you'll see that this strategy, this vision has been reflected out in what we've created with Acumatica. So then people ask us, well, where does Acumatica fit into the wide, wonderful world of business applications? Because at any given point in time, there are more than 300 different applications that you could choose from. And that doesn't factor in all of the niche players who are building solutions specifically for a very specific vertical market solution. People ask us, well, how do I make the decision? What's a good way of looking at this? Now, we had some conversations with Gartner, who are a firm of analysts who look at all the different people that are on this picture, look at all the different vendors, and they provide strategic advice to their clients around what they should consider when they're looking at these different applications. We had a conversation with Gartner, and we said, well, traditionally organizations position themselves to you as a potential customer on the basis of looking at your organization and saying, well, how many employees do you have? What revenues do you have every year? How much do you spend as a percentage of those revenues on your IT infrastructure, and so on and so forth? Well, our experience tells us that there's a better way of doing that, and that better way is to look fundamentally at your business process complexity, because that's what, if you like, accounting software, or more importantly, the next step up from accounting software, enterprise resource planning, that's what ERP is really designed to do. It's designed to help you manage those business processes. So we look at it in the context of business process complexity. So you can start off from organizations who have absolutely no enterprise resource planning or accounting software at all. And those organizations will start off with a very, very simple solution. And here's a couple of different examples of companies or solutions that are available in different areas of the world, including, of course, the world's most popular accounting software, which is Microsoft Excel, which is really just utilizing spreadsheets to track the transactions that have occurred in the business. So people start off at that level where they have no ERP at all, and then they take their first step where they move into a situation where they've got very or relatively simple business processes. It's just doing some standard things. We need to buy and sell inventory. We're not handling complex transactions. We're not handling complex supply chain integrations. It's very, very simple. We buy a product, we sell that product, or we sell a service, and we need to account for what goes on behind that. So that's that simple business process complexity, if you like, or simple business process automation requirement that they have. Now then you take a step up and you move into an area where people have more moderate business process complexity. Now what tends to impact on that? Well, the things that tend to impact on that are things like, what industry are you in? Are you, do you have requirements that are laid down by legislators that specify how you have to track and manage your transactions, how you have to track and manage your products or services? For example, if you're in healthcare or if you are manufacturing food products, these kinds of things where, you know, in healthcare you have to deal with things like HIPAA, which is the Healthcare Information Portability Act, or if you're in food processing, for example, where you have a process called HACCP, H-A-C-C-P or H-A-A-C-P, sorry, I've got a little bit of acronym brain block at the moment, which is really around tracking all the quality processes that occur as your raw materials and finished food products move through the manufacturing process. You know, you start getting into more complexity around that. And then you move into a high complexity area. Now, the high complexity area, it really starts to combine some of those things that I already talked about with transaction volumes and really high transaction volumes. So where does Acumatica fit? Well, Acumatica is a really great solution for those organizations who have moderate business process complexity. We also scale down for those organizations who have simple business processes that they need to automate. Right down to organizations with as few as 5 people accessing the solution. But what we're also seeing now is companies who would traditionally have selected one of the bigger players in the market, like an SAP or an Oracle or an Infor, are also starting to look at Acumatica. Why? Because whilst, and I'm going to show you this in the demonstration, whilst we have a relatively simple solution on the face of it, when you first look at Acumatica, you look at it and you say, well, that looks fairly straightforward. My people can work with that, they can learn it, they can understand it, they can use it very, very quickly with a minimal amount of training. When you start to dig down into the Acumatica solution, you'll realize that underneath there is a lot of capability. And more organizations are saying, you know what, we can actually take that capability and use that in our business and adapt it to our business process complexity. So we're actually seeing the market, that's our customers, people such as yourselves, are now saying, you know what, we want an enterprise resource planning solution that has all the things that Acumatica has. But they're traditionally, in those bigger kinds of organizations, they're now saying, well, we can run our business on Acumatica. And that's bringing us up higher into the market. So the different areas of the market that Acumatica can cover is starting to grow. And one of the other things that's helping us drive that is the fact that the Acumatica solution is delivered exclusively through channel partners. These are the organizations who will work with you and identify what is the best way to implement the solution? What is the best way to tailor the solution to your specific business? So those channel partners have that intimate understanding of your business, and they are the people who can then say, together with you, well, here is where Acumatica can actually do what you want to do today, but also has the ability to provide that platform for growth that we talked about, and you can now take those next steps. Because it's important when you're contemplating a new business management solution, a new enterprise resource planning solution, that you not only think about, well, what is it going to do for me for my business today, but you also think 3, 5, 7 years out and think about, what is my business going to look like in that period of time? And when you're making your purchasing decision, you want to make sure that you are investing to do what you need today, but also keep an eye on the future. Because one of the things that we see, traditionally organizations will invest in a business management solution that they expect to carry them for at least 5 to 7 years, and sometimes longer. We have partners who have been working with some of their customers for 20 years. Now those customers have been using different solutions over that 20-year period, but the average time frame that those partners are telling us that the customer sticks with a specific solution is around that 7 a 7 to 8 year time frame before they have to make that change. So keep that in the back of your mind, that you need to be thinking about not only what do I need to do today, but where's my business going to be in the next couple of years. So it's important then to understand how ERP has changed, because for most customers who choose a solution like Acumatica, it is not the very first piece of accounting software or enterprise resource planning software that they've ever had. And if you are a little bit like me, I started my career back doing enterprise resource planning in the 1980s, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth and we were working with green screens. I try and tell my children about this, and they look at me in disbelief, thinking, asking the question, was computing really like this? And well, we go back to the 80s where the operating systems were things like MS-DOS. Development or custom development was very expensive. User interfaces were clunky. You had limited features and functionality, and they were very expensive to maintain and difficult to upgrade. We then went through a fundamental shift in the 90s to move to what's called client-server, again where the application was separated to the data storage. And that's the whole idea behind client being the application and server being the data storage. Again, still the challenge was custom development was expensive. You were chained to the desktop. Okay, the whole concept of mobility was not even contemplated. And it was hard to collaborate with partners and customers. Now, the fundamental problem with client-server computing was it didn't support this concept of statelessness. What is statelessness? Statelessness is when the client loses the network connectivity to the server. In the client-server world, when that happened, the transactions would fail. The software would throw an error. Okay? In the world of the internet, you can't be sure that the connection is going to be there all the time. That's where statelessness becomes important. So that takes us into the, at the turn of the century, where web-based applications started to come out. Now, the costs of customization started to drop, but it was still difficult to customize. Why? Because you were linked to vendor-specific technologies, right? So if you were going to build for a certain web browser, you had to choose, am I going to build for Internet Explorer, or am I going to build for Netscape, or am I going to build for Mozilla, or one of these different platforms? And what was the development environment I was going to use? So vendor and data lock-in was very, very common. And then you were stuck with that vendor and you were kind of at their mercy, if you like. There was also a lack of integration with on-premise systems, and those web-based user interfaces were very vendor-specific. Move forwards to where we are today. At the change of the decade, now we're moving ahead. It's now 2014. We're now in a situation where there are more and more providers of cloud ERP solutions. And why is cloud ERP becoming more common and more prevalent? Because it's easy to integrate and it provides an extensible platform. You have the ability to adapt very, very quickly and easily to different kinds of devices and different screen sizes. That's what's called responsive design. When you build a web application or even just a simple website, and the one set of coding that is done on the back end will allow the system to adapt to either a desktop screen or to a mobile screen. So that's called responsive design. And you also have the ability to operate in both private and public clouds. So what's this? This is a private cloud is where the software is still operating and running over the internet, but it's only your organization that has access to that. No, you're not sharing any resources at the server level. That's really what private cloud is all about. Public cloud is where you are able to leverage that infrastructure, that server infrastructure across multiple companies, and by sharing that securely, you drive down the total cost of that implementation, okay, of that access. So that's what the public cloud is. So we're now seeing, a mix of these things and providing flexible deployments and pricing models. And what we call utility computing. Think about utilities, right? Your electricity. You don't pay based on the number of people who live in your house. You pay for what you use. Well, why shouldn't your computing become like that? So when people talk about true utility computing, that's what we're talking about. You only pay for what you use. And isn't that a great way to do it? You think about your business. Are there peaks and troughs in your utilization of your solutions? Wouldn't it be great if, as you needed to put more users into the system, that the back-end servers could automatically adapt to that, and you just pay for what you consume at that busy time of the year, and when things get quieter again and you use less resources, then you scale it back and it costs you less. That is the true promise of the cloud. And there is a document from the National Institute of Standards on Technology, I think it's called NIST, I think that's what it stands for, and they have a definition of what cloud computing is, and that's very much around that what we call, for one of the, here's a buzzword you can use to impress people at parties, they call it elasticity. Having the software and the resources being able to expand and contract as you need them. All right, so that's one of the key components of a cloud solution. So then, if you think about that, that's really where Acumatica fits in. And one of the things that our customers tell us that they love about Acumatica is that we provide all of the benefits of the cloud with none of the drawbacks. What do I mean by that? Most cloud ERP providers today will try and lock you in. They will lock you into their platform. They'll lock you into a particular licensing model. They'll lock you in and charge you per user. With Acumatica, we've looked at all those things and we've said, no, if utility computing is all about meeting your requirements, then we shouldn't be doing those things. So we don't. With Acumatica, you have unlimited users. If the promise of enterprise resource planning is that it allows everybody in the organization to access information to do their jobs better, why be limited and have to be in a situation where you say, you know what, I don't want to buy additional users, so I can't give all of my guys in the warehouse access to the information they need. I can't give all my salespeople on the road access to the information. I can't take advantage of all this technology and give my customers the ability to log on to the system themselves, give my suppliers the ability to log on to my system and do vendor managed inventory, where your supplier, within the framework of a contract, manages how much inventory you have of their product. Yeah, I mean, if you have to pay per user, you end up getting nickel and dime to death on that. And with Acumatica, we do not do that. Because when you buy Acumatica, you don't pay according to the number of users. Whether you've got 1 or 1,000 users, the price is based on how much resource you consume. The true promise of utility computing. And importantly, many customers still say, you know what, I like the idea of these web browser-based applications, but I don't like the idea of having my data sitting in somebody else's data center. I still want to have total control of my data and put it in my office. And we offer that deployment methodology, whereas almost every other cloud ERP provider today does not. So we give you that flexibility, and then we give you flexibility to pay as well. So you can either purchase your software license up front, where you purchase the license in perpetuity forever. Once you purchase that license, you are licensed to use it for as long as you choose, or you can pay per month, okay, or you agree on a contracted period and you pay, for usage of the system per year, per month, per quarter, whatever the case may be. And the beauty of Acumatica is you can switch between those models because your business requirements may change, your business model may change. It might make sense for you to put your computer in a corner of your office, but then for whatever reason you suddenly realize, you know what, we need to take advantage of the power of utility computing. We need to be in a situation where we can scale our resources up and back down again. And we don't want to be in the business of running computers. We don't want to be in the business of running IT. We want to be in our core business. We want to leave all of that to somebody else. Well, then you can move to our software as a service model where all of your data and the Acumatica applications are hosted by Acumatica on Amazon Web Services and delivered securely via the cloud. And then you just pay for what you use. All right? So that's what we're offering with Acumatica. So then, what are we really doing? Well, I mean, if you think about Acumatica, who are we? I mean, we are a leading provider of cloud business management software, and we're really focused on empowering small and mid-sized businesses to unlock their potential and drive growth, because that's what this is all about. It's really about driving growth and driving profitable growth. So, you know, we have built our solution on the world's best cloud and mobile technology, and we have that unique customer-centric licensing model. When you think about what Acumatica is, it's a suite of fully integrated business management applications built on that platform that I talked about, built on that Acumatica cloud platform that we started developing back in 2007. And we deliver the applications that help you in the areas of financials, distribution, customer relationship management, and project accounting. And why have we done this again? The world now is interconnected, whether you like it or maybe you don't like that level of interconnectedness that exists today. The bottom line is it's there and it's there to stay. So what we do in that interconnected world is we enable you to take full control of your business, to play to your strengths, because every business is unique. So you need to have a solution that does what you need but gives you flexibility. It's almost like thinking about the software as being a mass market software with a target market of one, which is your business. But you have all that pre-built functionality, that pre-built best practice in the software, but you can still tailor it down to the level of functionality that your specific business needs. That's what we mean by playing to your strengths. And being able to empower your people by going wherever your people go on any device. So it doesn't matter if you're in an office, if you're in the frequent flyer lounge at the airport, if you're sitting on an aeroplane. I was just doing this the other day as I was flying back from a conference in Las Vegas. I was sitting on the airplane connected to our Acumatica system, because funnily enough we use our own software, connected to our Acumatica system, managing all of our customer relationship and partner information from my seat in the middle of or right at the back of the plane, actually in economy class, you know, just connected with the GoGo in-flight wireless. And it worked as effectively as if I was inside my office. All right? That's really the power of Cloud ERP. So our value proposition is really around being easy to use, custom fitted, giving you payment flexibility and deployment choice. Now, I'm not going to talk about these things in a huge amount of detail, because what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to dive in and I'd like to give you a little bit of a demonstration of the Acumatica solution, just so you know what it looks like if you haven't seen it before. And then at the end of today's session, I'm also going to give you access to a live version of Acumatica, a live demonstration version anyway, that you can then go and try the software for yourself. You can see how easy it is to connect, how you don't have to install any software on your computer, how you can just use your web browser on any device anywhere in the world to access Acumatica. So, when you access Acumatica, what's the first thing you do? Well, you would have to have some kind of URL. So you open up your web browser and you put in the URL that has the location of the Acumatica software. So now this is my internal system that I use. We have a couple of servers here in our office, but just to give you an indication, I can also just go to this website, www.smeclouderp.com, and then I put /Acumatica, and I hit enter. And what you're going to see is this is now going to open up an instance of Acumatica that's actually running in Australia. So you could probably tell I'm not from the United States by my accent. So I have a whole server farm sitting back in Sydney, Australia, where I have a whole bunch of Acumatica instances and a bunch of other software running. So what you're looking at here is Acumatica running from a data center in Sydney. And I'm going to log in with the username admin, and the password is 123. And that's what you can use if you want to access this yourself. And then I choose login, and you'll see there is the Acumatica screen, and it's giving me my company dashboard. I'm going to open up one more screen, and I'm going to show you again my local deployment. So I'm now accessing my local server, and you can see there it is. I'm going to log in with my username. But in this particular instance, I actually have a whole range of different companies that I can select, because Acumatica delivers both multi-company functionality, and inside each of those companies you can also manage multiple branches. So there is a lot of flexibility in how the software adapts to your corporate structure. But I'm going to log into my company here called Evangelist, because that's my company setup that I have for my demonstration data. And I'm going to put in my password. And one of the things that you're going to see here is that when the software is running, whether I'm running off my local server, all right, or I'm running off a remote server, the software looks and operates exactly the same. So this is my Sales Manager dashboard. I have a series of these dashboards that I can work with. And the only difference here is that in my server running locally, I've got a different set of customizations that I've done to what I have on my server running in Sydney. So you'll see this says this is my Sales Manager dashboard, or I have my CRM dashboard. And then when I look at my CRM dashboard, I have certain things available to me. Whereas over here, I have a sales dashboard. All right? Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with this particular system that I have locally, but you will have access to this other one that's running out of my data center in Australia. And as I said, I'll share that URL with you a little later in today's presentation. So this is the Acumatica user interface. Now, if you're looking at this, you're thinking, okay, well, it's just a web browser. And that's exactly right. You don't have to install any software. When you go and access Acumatica, use your web browser of choice. On your platform of choice, we don't care if you're using Safari on the Mac, if you're using Mozilla on Linux, if you're running Internet Explorer on Windows 8, or maybe you're still running Windows Internet Explorer on Windows XP. Acumatica does not care, all right, as long as you are using a web browser that has takes advantage of up-to-date technology like HTML5, for example, right? Because that's what we use to deliver all of this functionality. Now, Acumatica is completely role-based. What do I mean by that? Think about the way your people work inside your organization. They do a specific job. I might be the controller, or I might be in charge of accounts receivable, or I might be responsible for accounts payable, or I may be working in the warehouse and I might be responsible for inventory management. So each one of those different roles will want to use the software in a different way, and Acumatica allows you to do that. By the same token, it allows you to customize it down to your individual requirements. So if you're in the situation where you have to do multiple roles, I do accounts receivable and accounts payable, or I do accounts receivable and I'm also responsible for managing inventory, or I do sales and I'm also responsible for purchasing. Acumatica allows you to tailor the software specifically to your requirements. I'm going to show you an example of the software tailored for a salesperson. So when I first logged into Acumatica, I told the system that I wanted to bring me into my sales dashboard, because I'm a salesperson. But you can see I have a dashboard built here if I was a controller, or I also have a dashboard built here if I am responsible for shipping in the organization. And you'll see I get to see different graphical representations of the information that's important to me. So as a controller, I want to see what are my bills that I have to pay. Let me just go back to that controller dashboard, I'm sorry. I can see what are the bills I have to pay, what are the accounts receivable balances that I have to keep an eye on, where are the large cash disbursements that are coming up. But not only that, I can also access specific functionality from within Acumatica. All right, so for example, one of the transactions that I do on a regular basis is I might need to record a payment. So with one click, I'm able to go in here and I can record the payments. Now, I'm not quite sure what happened there. I kicked across into my camera. So let me just quickly toggle back. I can go in here and I can record those or enter those sales orders or record those payments. Now, the beauty of these dashboards is that they are tailored specifically to you. So they can consist of these grids, they can consist of these graphical representations, or they can consist of what we call widgets, which contain specific functions. So here you'll see I have these functions to record a cash sale, enter a sales order, or record a payment. So I can access those from there, or I can use a traditional menuing structure. So I can say, for example, well, if I want to enter a sales order, well, I can go into distribution. So I select distribution from up here on the top, and then I say, well, I want to look at sales orders. So I select sales orders, and then I want to enter a sales order. So I go in here, I choose Enter Sales Orders, and what do I see across here on the right-hand side in my main work area? I see my sales order entry screen. Now, a couple of other things that I'll just point out to you with Acumatica that make the software so easy to use. Across here in your main navigation panel, you'll see you have 4 different areas. Now, you have a work area, which is where you enter your transactions. You then have these processes. These are the things where you do activities that impact a large volume of transactions at once. So, for example, you might do all your order entry up until midday. Then at midday, you close off your order entry and you want to take all those sales orders and pick and pack them. So you turn them into picking slips, send them out to the warehouse, and have the warehouse pick and pack. So that's what you can do here when you choose process orders, for example. You can select all of the orders that are sitting in the system. You can narrow it down and say, show me all the orders for all my customers, or just for a specific group of customers, or just for a specific range of shipping dates or order dates, and then process them all en masse. So that's that bulk processing. You then have this function, which is where you go and you do your reporting. And this is where you can do your sales order details by customer. You can do your shipment summaries. You can do order registers. And all of these reports that you can generate are all able to be turned into templates. So what can you do? You can set a whole group of these parameters, and then you can save those parameters as a template. And then when you run the report, all those parameters are stored. All right? And then you just get that report with those stored parameters. And then that report gets generated. And then you can send the report off as a PDF document. You can drill down on the report. You can print it to a printer if you want to. You can email it out to people, or you can even go ahead and you can export that report out as an Excel spreadsheet. All right? And then, of course, this other area here in the navigation panel is where you do your configuration. And this is where, remember earlier I talked about this idea of Acumatica being very, very powerful, but a lot of that power being hidden away so it doesn't get in the way of your users. Well, this is where you start to configure the power and flexibility of the system, with being able to configure all these different order types and having all kinds of different parameters on those different order types to cover all the different areas of business process complexity that you might have to manage. Again, I'm not going to get into that level of detail. When you start to talk to one of our partners, they're going to be able to explain all of that to you. But they're not going to come in and show you every single piece of functionality that's in the software. They're going to talk to you about what's important to you, what are your business goals, what's your vision for the business, how will you know when you've achieved that vision, and what's stopping you from getting there. And that's what we call visions, indicators, and pain. All right, and that's one of the things that when we work with our channel partners, we teach them to look at it from that perspective. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to buy enterprise resource planning. I think it's fair to say nobody wakes up in the morning and says, today my life will be complete if I go out and buy some ERP software. You wake up in the morning and say, well, today I have a challenge in my business. I need to grow my revenue by 15% whilst not increasing my costs accordingly. You might say, I need to turn my unsold inventory into cash so I can then take that cash and reinvest that in my business growth. These are the challenges that you need to address. Our tool, our enterprise resource planning, is just a tool that helps you achieve those things. But you need to make sure you've got the right tool, and that's where our partners can help you. So again, let's look at a couple of other things in the Acumatica user interface. Let's go back into our sales order entry. Now I'm working with a fairly large screen, all right? So I can see a lot of information on my screen. But let's assume I'm actually working with a smaller screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this down, and I'm going to just get rid of that screen there. Okay, I'm going to minimize this down, and what you'll see, keep an eye on these tabs where all the different information in Acumatica is stored. As my screen size gets smaller, you'll see instantaneously the screen automatically redraws and adjusts itself according to the screen size. That's what we call responsive design, and that's what you get in a true web application. It even goes to the point where even the menus up the top, you'll see those shrink down. And I can go from a really large size screen to a really small size screen. So this is traditionally what I might be working with an iPhone, for example, where I can drive it via touch. I can hide that navigation pane, and there's my sales order entry screen. All right, and I can shrink that down as well. And you'll see the software automatically adjusts and adapts accordingly. Nice big button, so if you're driving things through a touch interface, you can do it effectively. All right, you don't need to have a different version for your mobile device versus your PC. And again, you only have to remember one URL to access all of that. So as soon as I go back up into full screen mode, you'll see there it is. Everything now available for me on that screen. So when I'm entering a sales order, and I'm going to call up an existing sales order just for the sake of the exercise, what you'll see is I have a whole range of information available to me. Now, one of the things is a lot of people go, well, I don't need to see a whole bunch of this information. How easy is it to customize these screens? Do I have to write code? Well, no, you don't. All you do is if you want to remove some of these fields because you don't want to see, whether or not there's a discount code. You don't want to enable your people to give manual discounts. So what you can do is you can just simply click on here and you can say, you know what, I don't want to see, let's say I don't want to see the manual discount. So you simply select that and move it off the screen. I don't want to see if there is an undership or an overship threshold. All right? I don't want to see whether or not this sales order is linked to a purchase order, because we can do that linking of sales orders to purchase orders. So when you receive the purchase order, you can then issue the sales order, or you can then ship the sales order. I want to get rid of that. And let's say I don't use projects in my business, so I'm going to get rid of that as well. So then I'll say save, and you immediately see the screen adapts accordingly. And then I can hit this button here to get all of that information to auto-fit to the screen. So a whole range of flexibility that's available to you. The other thing you can do, pardon me, is you'll see on most of the screens in Acumatica, there is this export to Excel button. So if I've got this transaction here, I can, with one click, I can take that and I can push it out to Excel. Now the great thing about what we do, Acumatica is a true web-based application. That means that we use technology called web services. When I take this information and I push it out to my Excel spreadsheet, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to now open this sales order up in Microsoft Excel. What I can do is there is a live link between my Excel spreadsheet and Acumatica that is powered by these web services. And what that means is that when I'm looking at my Excel spreadsheet and there's my data, all right, what I'm able to do is if I click on this enable editing function in Excel, again this is just for security, what I can do is if this sales order back in Acumatica changes, right, let's say another line gets added to the sales order, then when I go into Excel, I can go in here into data and I can just choose to refresh my data. You'll see I've got this refresh all function, and then what it will do, it will automatically update what's in this spreadsheet. Even if I've taken this spreadsheet onto my laptop and I'm now on the other side of the world, all right? This spreadsheet will connect to your Acumatica system securely and in an encrypted fashion and will automatically refresh that data. That's the power of cloud-based enterprise resource planning. That's the power of the underlying Acumatica platform, that it gives you the ability to do all that. So if you're the kind of person who walks around with a sign above their head saying spreadsheets are my life, and give me the data any way you like as long as it's in an Excel spreadsheet and then you can do something with it, then you're going to love working with Acumatica. Because what can you do? Well, you can take all of your reports. You can push that data out from any one of these reports into Excel. So getting data in is important, and we do a whole bunch of things that make it easy for you to manage the system. When you know how to use one screen in Acumatica, you'll know how to use them all. For example, if you want to copy information to or from the clipboard, that's what this button here does. If you want to attach a note, you just simply go up here to add notes. If you want to look at activities and link an activity to this transaction, you click on activities. If you want to take a file, let's say somebody sent you a purchase order and you want to scan the purchase order in and attach it to this sales order, then that's what you can do with this files link. It simply enables you to click here and say add a file, and then you choose that file that you've scanned in onto your local machine, and then you choose to upload it. You can give it a comment there, and then bang, that's all automatically available. And again, it doesn't matter where you are. If you are using Acumatica on your iPad and you're doing your expenses, because we support time and expense processing in Acumatica, and you want to take a photo of a bill and attach that to your expense report on the fly, you can absolutely do that. In fact, with Acumatica, we have, and if you're running on Windows 8, we have a special application for doing that, and let me just quickly show you, and that's this Expense It application. So with Expense It, it is a Microsoft Windows, what they used to call the Metro user interface. It is a Windows application that allows you to do all of your expense management from a Windows phone, from a Microsoft Surface tablet, or of course from Windows 8. But again, I'm not going to go in and show you this. We've got demos of this functionality up on our YouTube channel that you can go and watch later. But all that functionality that you're familiar with if you're using Windows 8, well, you can use that with Acumatica today. Or I can just go back to my application and there it is. Other things that you need to be aware of, you'll see we give you little alerts in the system. Just a little warning, the customer's days past due has been exceeded. All right? And then not only do we give you this trigger here, but we also give you a little red flag around the field to let you know that that's a problem. Then if you want to drill down and look at that customer with one click, you can go in here and you can drill down, and it opens it up in a separate screen. You can now drill down and you can see that customer information. And again, there is that same alert letting you know that their past due days has been exceeded. So it becomes very, very easy to work inside the Acumatica system. One last thing that I'd like to show you as well, because a lot of people, you know, the functionality that's in the software is important. Getting the data in is important. But what's even more important is getting the data out. And for a lot of people, it's, well, how easy is it to do that? Well, in Acumatica, we have a feature that we call generic inquiries. And how do generic inquiries work? Well, you simply go here into System and then you choose Customization. And this is where you can, if you have the right level of security, let me be very clear on that. This isn't something that everyone can just go crazy on. You have to give them the rights to do this. I'm logged in as the admin, so right now I'm the super user. I can do everything. All right, but if I've been granted the rights, I can go in here and I can build generic inquiries. So a generic inquiry that I built earlier in my best television chef mode is this sales orders and quotes generic inquiry. So I just choose where in the back-end system does that data come from. Those tables, okay, because I've got my customer master information and my sales order information. I want to pull information from both. How are those tables related? Do I want to set any parameters when I run this generic inquiry so it prompts me and says, hey, what dates do you want, or what customers do you want? What are those parameters? And again, I can set this up once and then publish it out to everybody in the organization so they never have to see this. It'll just go ahead and give them their generic inquiry screen. What are the conditions that I set? How do I want the data grouped? How do I want it sorted? And not only that, when it gives me a result, specifically what fields do I want to see in the result? All right? I then save that, and I then publish it onto what we call the sitemap. This is the sitemap. All right? So I can go into generic inquiry and I can go through this process, or I can just click here and say sales orders and quotes. What does it do? It now just runs that generic inquiry and there's the result. I want to push it out to Excel, no problem. One click and it pushes that data out. I want to see that maximized across the whole screen. One click there and you now see it's taking up all of that screen space. And here it is. It's just saying, do you want to open or save that Excel data? Well, I'm going to open it. It runs a security scan to make sure that there's no security issues in the Excel spreadsheet. Make sure nothing malicious has been loaded into my Excel spreadsheets. Make sure there's nothing malicious that's gotten into the data, which there shouldn't be, because Acumatica manages and tracks all of that effectively. And there it is. There's my data. Again, it's asking me, do I want to enable editing? I'll say yes. And there's my data. So now, saying external data connections have been disabled, because that's the default. By default, I don't want those things switched on. I make a choice to enable it, and now I can go in here and I can choose data and refresh all, and then the system will simply go ahead and will refresh that data. That means I don't have to go back into Acumatica and run this sales order and quote field again. I just take that Excel spreadsheet with me now, and it's always updated. So now, spreadsheets are my life. I want to start building information and graphing all that information. Well, I can take that and I can start using my functionality in Microsoft Excel to graph it, map it, analyze it, group it, do all those kinds of things that I want. So that's all I wanted to show you in terms of the Acumatica application, just to give you a little bit of a snapshot of what functionality is available in the software. So let's then dive back to my presentation. So what have we covered? We've covered a lot, and we've come to the end of our presentation, but I've talked about the user interface and that functionality. What is the detailed functionality that's available? Well, again, I mentioned the software is broken up into these suites: finance, customer management, distribution management, project accounting, with all of these different functional areas inside those modules. So the solution is very, very comprehensive. Okay, it's built on top of the Acumatica cloud platform, which is what we built first, that provides not only Acumatica but our partners the ability to build and extend out the core Acumatica application, which is what we're looking at up the top here. What else do we have? We have customers who have taken the Acumatica solution in a whole range of different industries, and they're utilizing it today, whether distribution, retail and manufacturing, professional services through to non-profit, health, marketing services and high-tech. Some names you'll recognize like KFC. Other names that you probably won't recognize because these are smaller companies. Other names that you will, like Clear Channel, Parallels, Republic Parking. A whole range of different size organizations who are utilizing the Acumatica solution. And what I've got here is I've got a number of different examples of how these companies are utilizing Acumatica to drive real business results. Here, for example, AME Corporation, 400% productivity gains by deploying Acumatica. And we have a detailed case study that you can review on that. A business services company called Keystone Solutions saved approximately 80% of their projected deployment costs by choosing Acumatica with our cloud-based deployment options. Parallels reduced their cost of operations, their cost of doing their reporting and consolidation by 80% by choosing to run their business on Acumatica. And it's not just us and our customers who say Acumatica is a great solution. We also have a number of external organizations recognizing Acumatica and awarding us for our usage of technology and using technology to solve business problems. Because at the end of the day, it's not about technology for technology's sake. It's about utilizing technology to solve business problems. So who is Acumatica in wrapping everything up? Well, we're the fastest growing cloud ERP company in the world. We have representation and offices all around the world. We have in excess of 100 employees in these different locations around the world. Founded, effectively incorporated, even though we started building the software in 2000, but incorporated in 2008 by ERP veterans John Howell, quite a well-known entrepreneur, Sergey Belousov, and our Chief Technology Officer, Mike Chelkonigov, people who came originally from the Microsoft Dynamics world from a product called Solomon Software. And again, backed up by really strong investment companies like Almaz Capital and Visma. So we are strong, we are growing, and why are we growing? Because more and more customers are saying yes to what we have to offer in our Acumatica solution. So what's the next steps for you? Well, the next step is to reach out to us at Acumatica, and we will put you in touch with our partner. Or, of course, if you're already working with an Acumatica partner, to take the information that you now have and continue to work with them. If you have any questions at any time, you can feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm the product evangelist here at Acumatica, but my official title is the Vice President of Partner Strategy Enablement. And you can reach me at rduffy@acumatica.com. You can visit our website at www.acumatica.com. If you're not currently working with a partner and you would like to find a partner to work with, we have a partner locator on the website. But really the easiest thing to do is to reach out to us. There is an online chat there on the website. Reach out to us, talk to one of our people. You can even reach out to me. We pride ourselves on being contactable. I'd be more than happy to talk with you about how Acumatica can help you unlock your business potential. So with that, I would say thank you. I hope you found today's session to be worthwhile, and I look forward to having the opportunity to work with you, whether you're a potential customer whether you're a potential partner or a potential independent software vendor looking to build a solution on the Acumatica platform. I look forward to working with you, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have. So with that, have a great day, and I wish you all the very best. Thank you.